Let me tell you something right out the gate. There are moments in life when you think you've seen it all, that nothing could shock you, that maybe your little suburb's seen its worst and people can't surprise you anymore. And then you watch the president of your neighborhood, HOA, taser a blind girl's guide dog right in front of a dozen horrified neighbors, and suddenly your world gets a whole lot darker and way more complicated. Yeah, that happened. And I was there to see every terrible second. So let me back up a bit and tell you how our quiet community went from rose gardens and potlucks to front page news and a federal indictment in the span of one muggy summer morning. Sarah Martinez, 16, blind since birth. She's one of those kids you just root for without even trying. Always walked past my place on Maple Street with her golden retriever Max. And if you ever doubted that dogs could be heroes, you never saw Max at work. That dog was her eyes, her independence, her best friend, all rolled up in one golden furball with a vest worth more than my first car. 50 grand's what they say those service dogs cost to train, but if you ask Sarah, he was priceless. Every morning she'd make her way down the block, Max leading ears up tail, calm eyes scanning for any little obstacle or danger. Sarah would stop at the mailbox, and I swear you could see her light up, sometimes humming, sometimes just listening to the birds waiting for a letter from her dad. Colonel James Martinez, halfway across the world on some dusty base, riding home as often as he could since her mom passed from cancer. That little routine was sacred, you know what I mean? Until the day Margaret Thornfield decided to make it her business. Now Margaret, man, I don't even know where to start. Picture a 5-foot force of nature with platinum blonde hair sprayed so tight you could bounce a quarter off it, a tracksuit that never saw a gym, and a stare that could peel paint. She was HOA president by self-appointment, living off her dead husband's insurance money, wielding bylaws like a medieval club. I'll give her this: when Margaret hated something, she went all in, and she hated Max and Sarah with a passion that bordered on obsession. That morning, the air was heavy, like it knew something bad was about to happen. Sarah came down the street as usual, hand on Max's harness, humming a tune I couldn't place. Margaret stood in her driveway watching, waiting. Really. Soon as Sarah reached the mailbox, Margaret stormed over, barking, "No dogs allowed," in that shrill voice of hers. Sarah tried to explain, as patient as ever. "He's a guide dog, ma'am. It's legal, the ADA says." But Margaret cut her off, spat some nonsense about liberal disability rules in my community. My rules. The look on Sarah's face, man, you never want to see a kid look that small and scared, not in your own neighborhood. She just wanted her letter from her dad. Margaret, though, wasn't having it. Pulled out her phone, threatened animal control, and the cops started gathering a crowd without even trying. Mrs. Chin, Mr. Rodriguez, even little Tommy Patterson were watching, faces pressed to windows, sensing that something ugly was brewing. But no one thought Margaret would actually do it. No one thought she'd take that black taser out of her purse and jab it against Max's neck. I heard Sarah scream. The sound, it was like the world stopped for a second. Max yelped, hit the ground, started convulsing, foam and blood dripping from his mouth service vest. Twisted eyes wide with pain and fear, Sarah dropped to her knees, hands searching, sobbing, "Please, Max, please, stay with me." Margaret just stood there, satisfied, sneering, "Maybe now you'll follow the rules." You know what happens next? Neighbors flooded the scene. Mrs. Chin knelt beside Sarah, trembling. "Margaret, what have you done?" Mr. Rodriguez pulled out his phone, called 911 right in Margaret's face. The air crackled, some folks shocked, some furious, some just ashamed they hadn't done something sooner. Margaret doubled down, still waving her taser, shouting about dangerous animals, but the tide was turning, and even the HOA loyalists looked sick. Sirens came fast. Paramedics arrived, police cruisers right behind. Officer Janet Williams, one of the good ones, 20 years on the force, took one look, told Margaret to put down the taser. Margaret started ranting about personal protection and enforcing standards, but she was shaking now, her world starting to tilt. The paramedic Dave, gentle as could be, checked Max over, voice low and angry. "He needs the ER now." Mrs. Chin offered to drive, but Officer Williams said no crime scene, everyone stay put. Then, staring right at Margaret, she said the words we'd all been waiting for. "You're under arrest for animal cruelty, assault with a weapon, and violation of federal disability law." Margaret looked stunned, like really blindsided, kept protesting, "I'm the HOA president. I was protecting the community." Here's where the story twists. Because just as Margaret's getting cuffed, A black sedan pulls up and out steps Colonel Martinez himself, fresh from a Pentagon call. Chest full of medals, face stone cold. He kneels by Sarah and Max holds his daughter, then stands and locks eyes with Officer Williams, voice controlled. Status of the dog. Dave answers, he's alive, but he needs urgent care. Colonel turns to Margaret, and suddenly she's not the scariest person on the block anymore. He leans in, calm as a storm about to break. You hurt my daughter and her service dog. You just made the worst mistake of your life. Margaret tries to bluster, but the colonel's got that quiet authority, one call to his old Army contacts, and within 30 minutes the feds are rolling in. I'm talking FBI, DOJ, the whole alphabet. They read Margaret her rights again, and this time it sinks in. Her face goes white as chalk. Meanwhile, Mr. Rodriguez's live stream of the whole mess is already viral. Comments flooding in from all over, people demanding justice for Sarah and Max, for every service animal, for every kid who's ever been bullied for being different. The aftermath. I've never seen anything like it. News vans, lawyers, angry residents calling for Margaret's head. Stories surfaced she'd harassed the Chins, tried to rip out the Rodriguez boys' wheelchair ramp, banned autistic kids from the playground for being disruptive. It all comes out, every ugly bit. Margaret's attorney tries for a deal, but the prosecutor, Patricia Hayes, all business won't budge. Your client tasered a blind girl's guide dog. See you in court. The trial's a circus. Packed house, neighbors, veterans, disability rights folks. The defense tries to spin Margaret as a misunderstood hero, but the videos show Max never once acted aggressive, just stood by Sarah doing his job. Dr. Kim from the animal hospital testifies about Max's injuries, says service dogs can get PTSD just like people. Sarah takes the stand steady, but you can hear the heartbreak. Max is my independence, my safety, my confidence. When she heard him, she heard all that. Even Margaret's former allies turn one after another, painting a picture of a woman addicted to power and cruelty. The jury comes back in 2 hours flat, guilty on every count. The judge throws the book, 8 years in federal prison, $500,000 in damages, 2,000 hours of disability, community service banned for life from any HOA job. As she's dragged away, Margaret's still yelling, "This isn't fair. I was protecting my neighborhood, but nobody's listening anymore." Now you want to talk about redemption. The real twist is what happens next. The community rallies around Sarah and Max fundraisers, gifts, thousands of cards. Colonel's Army unit even sends over a retired military dog, Thor, to keep Max company during his recovery. When Sarah goes off to law school, yep, disability rights no less, Max goes with her, healthy, scarred but unbroken. Still the best boy in the world. Margaret's old house turned into a service dog training center. Yeah, poetic justice, right? So here's where I'll leave you. The neighborhood changed better than before. More inclusive, more compassionate. The shadows Margaret left behind filled with sunlight, new hope, real community. Sarah, she's out there making sure this never happens to anyone else. Max at her side. Thor visiting sick kids at the hospital, the colonel working to help disabled vets. And the rest of us. We learned something about courage, about standing up when it counts, about what happens when good people refuse to look away. But let me ask you, where do you stand? Was justice served, or did it go too far? Does one person's fear ever justify taking away someone else's independence, their dignity, their best friend? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about it. And hey, if you made it this far, share this story, hit that like, and let's make sure the world never forgets what real community looks like.